Thanks. Normally somebody needs to introduce a speaker. In this case, I think that we have a man that needs no introduction, the next President of the United States.
Thank you, Marcos, who is helping organize our campaign in Iowa. And I can remember a few years ago when I was about to come on stage, and somebody just said, "Go on stage." And so I started. I said, "For a man who needs no introduction, no introduction." So I want to thank you. I want to thank all of you for being here on a fairly short notice to talk about progressive populists.
Wow. You are the progressive populist.
to talk about our nation and the direction that we'd like to see America go. So in the time that we have, I'm going to make some brief remarks here, but in the time that we have, I want to engage in a discussion with you about the kind of America that you want to see, about the America of your dreams and hopes, and to talk about how we can get from what our hopes and dreams are for this country to achieving them. This race for the presidency took a very serious turn in the last presidential debate, the one that was moderated by Tim Russert, because during the course of the debate, he started to ask candidates questions about, when do we foresee getting out of Iraq? And some of our candidates are now putting the date of 2013. How many of you heard that, the 2013 date? See, let me tell you what's wrong with that. The minute that we start speaking of America staying in Iraq till 2013, it means more destabilization in the region. It means that this message about a war based on lies really hasn't gotten through. Because if we're in a war that now it's universally acknowledged was based on falsehoods, a war that's cost the lives of almost 4,000 American troops, of over 1 million innocent Iraqis, a war that we're now borrowing money from China to pay for, a war that will cost us up to $2 trillion. That's if it ends now. Then what in the world are we doing with leaders who are talking about keeping us there? Same leaders who voted to fund the war, in the case of 2 of them who voted for the war in the first place. See, a Kucinich administration means this. It means not only a plan to get out of Iraq, which I have. I actually wrote elements of it the minute that we invaded. 5 years ago, I did an analysis telling members of Congress, don't go there. I picked apart the Bush claim for war. Just did some deep analysis. One of the things, I see so many students here, one of the things that you go to college for is to develop critical thinking skills, to be able to do deep analysis of anything you're offered, any information you're offered. So I really went deep into this cause for war, and I found out that every claim that was made that would take us into war was a lie. And I wrote something that if you type in Kucinich Iraq analysis 2002, you'll find this report, and I shared it with members of Congress. I organized 125 members against the war, but I did more than that. I campaigned against the war across this country. That's what brought me into the first run for the presidency, to challenge the war and to challenge my own party's complicity in letting the war happen, because the Democratic leadership bought into the war in 2002. The Democratic Senate let it happen. People forget. The Democrats controlled the Senate in 2002. The Democrats could have stopped it. So I felt an obligation as a Democrat to try to show people a new direction. So when the invasion happened, I wrote a plan on how to get out. Elements of that plan are now embodied in H.R. 1234, the plan to end the Iraq War. It involves ending the occupation, closing the bases, bringing our troops home, but setting in motion a parallel process of an international peacekeeping and security force that moves in as our troops leave. Now people say, oh, that means you'll talk to Syria and you'll talk to Iran. And I said, yes, it does. Yeah. Imagine that. We're on the same planet. And as a matter of fact, my wife and I have been to the region, and I've met with Syrian leaders. who are concerned about the instability in the region that's occasioned by the war in Iraq. They took in 1.5 million Iraqi refugees and increased the population of their country for a time by 9%. I mean, think about what that would mean in our own country. That would be as if we took in 27 million people. So we need to reach out to the nations of the region. I've talked to about 24 ambassadors from countries in the broader region, all who agree the war in Iraq is a destabilizing factor for the whole region. They want it to end. But we have to end the occupation. We're not going to get help in any plan to end the war unless we agree we're going to leave, because it's the occupation that's fueling the insurgency. So we end that occupation, create the parallel process, peacekeeping and security force from the region, made up of Muslims, of course, who, as we leave, they move in. But that's just part of it. The peacekeeping plan must include a program of reconciliation between the Shiites, the Sunnis, and the Kurds. That can't happen as long as the U.S. is occupying. You know, we think we can play all sides, but that's not happening. That's not working. There's a lot of people getting killed because of our presence. And so in addition to that, we have to have an honest program of reparations. You've heard about all these contractors that are cheating the Iraqis and the American taxpayers as well. I don't know if you remember this incident a few years ago where $10.8 billion was